Hey guys, it's Juan with SOAZ, covering our trip to Colorado, our first ever Colorado power trip. We headed up to Ouray and Silverton, Colorado, and it was the perfect time of year, September 2020, just before the first big snow hit, and it was an amazing trip.
Engine fit? A little bit of lube, yeah, shit. I figured that's all it takes. Just spit on it.
Our first day in Colorado, after we set up camp, we headed up to the area just above Silverton, which is the town that we were closest to. We just explored up in the mountains just south of the town, and it was a pretty awesome area, lots of mines to check out, and once you got higher in elevation, there actually was no trees anymore because of the lack of oxygen. This was an interesting spot in the trail where the trail has kind of eroded right next to a cliff. It was actually more nerve-wracking going downhill than it was going up because the steep side was on the passenger side of the vehicle. At the top of that trail we were exploring after setting up camp, we got to a mine and a pretty cool pond. No telling how deep it was, but it was up high and an amazing view. With day one of our trip under our belt, we headed back to camp, where we camped just outside of Silverton near the Big Molus Lake. We got our much needed relaxation and rest for the big day we had for day two of our trip on the trails in Colorado. We started day two of our trip off with a bang on the world famous Black Bear Pass trail, starting just north of Silverton and heading into the mountains with a high elevation of 12,840 feet, taking us down into Telluride, Colorado. The first portion of the trail was fairly tame as we headed up in higher elevation above the timberline. About a third of the way into the trail, we reached the Black Bear Pass summit at a height of 12,840 feet. It's the highest point in the trail and a great photograph opportunity to stop by the sign. As we began our descent down into Telluride, the trail does get a little bit more technical, especially for stock rigs. It gets pretty tight, and there are some very steep drop-offs on the side of the road. It can make it a pretty nerve-wracking experience.
Turn driver! Straight! Straighten out! Driver! A little bit, there you go. Stay just like that. Driver! Driver! Driver, keep coming!
Some of you may recognize this spot from about a zillion Instagram and Facebook posts. This is one of the most photographed spots on the trail where people stop here on this sharp edge of the cliff and take photographs with the city of Telluride in the background. This is probably what I consider one of the most famous obstacles, if you will, on this trail. Very tight switchback curve, aptly named Adios curve. It's at least a 3-point turn for small wheelbase vehicles like this Mitsubishi Montero, driven by our super member Jorge. Here we'll show you a first-person view of what it's like to tackle this obstacle. Cue the suspenseful music.
Car passenger. Are you clear? That's great.
Well, that was a bit dramatic, but in all seriousness, this can be a very dangerous part of the trail. In fact, a week after we were there, a vehicle rolled from the very top of the zigzag pattern you can see here all the way to the bottom, so please be very careful when navigating this part of Black Bear Pass. After making it down the hill into Telluride and having lunch, we took Imogene Pass back over the mountains into Ouray, Colorado. Imogene Pass was the tallest pass that we went over in our travels in Colorado, with a high elevation of 13,114 feet. After reaching the summit, we began our descent down into Ouray, Colorado. Imogene Pass was a very scenic trail. There were lots of mines to check out in the area, and thanks to some snow runoff, we got to cross a few creeks on the way down. All in all, this was one of my favorite trips so far, and we definitely will be going back. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that thumbs up button so you are notified of our new videos. We'll see you on the next trail.